In the morning, humans. Welcome to today's news and guidance show for Saturday, November 29th, 2025. Coming at you live from the Fulton County Central Library, let's look at today's items.
And I'm Mater. I'm ready to dig in and synthesize the critical knowledge from all the sources you've gathered for us.
And I am Figistifus, your guide through, well, what looks like a pretty complex week. We have a really compelling deep dive for you today.
It looks like it. Our sources start us right here in Atlanta, Georgia, with some pretty intense legislative friction.
Yeah, and then we're going to zoom out to global crises, some frankly startling national security failures, and then dive into the very dark evolution of AI-powered cybercrime.
And our mission, as always, is simple. We take this whole stack of material, all your research, your articles, and we turn it into something cohesive. High-value knowledge.
We want to give you the context, the so what, behind all the headlines. This is your shortcut to being genuinely informed without, feeling completely overwhelmed.
Right. But before we get started, we should probably mention how this whole thing works.
Oh, yeah, good point. This news and guidance program is completely value for value. If you appreciate the analysis and the depth we bring, there are some really direct ways you can support us.
That's right. The easiest way is to just zap the show using a Podcasting 2.0 app. Fountain is a great one. It's a direct value exchange, and it keeps the show independent.
And speaking of value, a quick but important note. The Survival Seasoning Batch 2 presale at shop.sbasp.com is ending really soon.
That's right. You don't want to miss that window.
No, you don't. And we have to give a huge shout out to presale participants like Cool at 6 Stick Gifts. They specialize in, get this, North Texas crepe myrtle 5 to 6 inch sections.
Huh. Very specific. I like it.
Me too. Okay, so that's shop.sbasp.com. Don't miss out.
Excellent. Now, shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're starting at the epicenter of political and economic activity right here in the Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia.
And the biggest news on the local political scene, really, is the official announcement from former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms.
Right. She's running for Georgia governor.
And this isn't just, another campaign announcement. It immediately puts urban issues front and center in a statewide race, which that doesn't always happen.
No, it doesn't. And her platform, based on the sources, is built on three main pillars. First one is fiscal stewardship.
Of course. You have to have that to appeal to the whole state, not just the city.
Exactly. You need to appeal to more fiscally conservative voters while also proving you can manage a massive state budget.
And the second pillar is a direct appeal to the service community. She's promising pay raises for police and firefighters.
Which is a very smart, very crucial move right now. Public safety is always a hot-button issue, and cities everywhere are struggling with recruitment and retention for first responders.
Yeah, you hear about that constantly.
It's a major problem. And that promise often gets paired with talk about teacher pay raises, too. It's this recognition that critical state employees need real incentives to stay.
And her third pillar, which ties directly into a huge legislative fight we're about to get into, is affordable housing.
Absolutely. Given just the explosive growth of the Atlanta metro area, affordability is probably the single biggest economic challenge for most families here.
But let's be real. She was the mayor of a huge, complex city. Her record is going to be the main target.
It's completely unavoidable. The sources say critics are already lining up to dissect every single controversy from her time as mayor.
And that transition from running a city to running for governor of a whole state, that's a huge shift.
It's a profound shift. You go from managing the unique crises of an urban center to trying to build consensus across all 159 counties in Georgia. Her entire run will be defined by how well she defends her past decisions.
Okay, so speaking of that affordable housing issue, that's the reason, or at least the stated reason, for this piece of legislation that's causing a ton of friction right now, House Bill 812.
Right. And on the surface, the goal sounds good. Speed up construction, bring down housing costs. Who wouldn't want that?
So is the catch.
The core of HB 812 is basically a state mandate. It forces local governments, cities, counties to follow these really strict, really fast deadlines for issuing construction permits.
So the logic is you cut the red tape, you build more houses, and prices come down.
That's the classical supply-side argument, yes. Eliminate bureaucratic friction, boost supply, and prices should stabilize.
It sounds like a common sense idea. Why is it getting so much pushback from local officials and conservation groups, too?
Because the devil, as always, is in the details, and the details reveal this fundamental power struggle over home rule. The pushback is coming from the fear that these aggressive timelines just completely undermine essential safeguards.
Safeguards like what? What are we talking about here?
We're talking about environmental protection, for one, also infrastructure oversight, basic quality control.
Okay.
Think about it. Local governments need time to make sure a new development has, say, adequate storm drainage so it doesn't flood the neighborhood next door, or that the traffic study actually accounts for the new cars on the road.
And if you force them to approve it in just a few weeks.
They argue they can't do their due diligence. The risk of future problems, flooded basements, cracked foundations, traffic jams, which the taxpayers will end up paying for, it just goes way up.
So wait a minute, is this really about environmental safety? Or could it also be local officials fighting to keep control? So they can impose rules that keep density low and property values high for existing homeowners.
That is the central tension, and it's a very valid question. Some of the safeguards that local governments have are in fact related to things like aesthetics or high-impact fees that, let's be honest, protect the character and the property values of existing neighborhoods.
So HB 812 threatens that.
It absolutely does. It threatens their power to impose those very specific, often restrictive local requirements.
And here's where it gets really political. The sources point out that HB 812 doesn't just speed things up, it actually limits local governments from setting building codes that are stricter than the state minimum.
And that is the real power play. That's the key. Building codes are about fire safety, material quality, energy efficiency. A city might want to mandate higher standards for a good reason.
Right, like if you're in an area with specific soil issues or something.
Exactly. HB 812 basically says that's an unnecessary barrier. It drives up costs. So it centralizes control at the state level. It tells cities you can't set the gold standard if it slows things down.
Wow. So this isn't just about permits. It's a huge philosophical fight over local control versus state intervention for economic efficiency.
It is. The outcome of this bill will literally shape what gets built and how well it gets built across Georgia for years.
And yet, despite all that fighting, the economic indicators here still seem pretty strong. We saw a huge announcement from Salesforce about an expansion.
Right, which shows there's still a lot of confidence in the Atlanta market. This is a clear sign that the region is a top destination for tech investment.
The numbers are impressive. It's a $15 million new investment, creating over 250 new jobs in Fulton County by 2028.
And it's not just about the jobs themselves, though those are great. It's about the stability of the tax base, the prestige these big companies bring. That kind of capital infusion is essential when you're talking about funding all the infrastructure we were just discussing.
And beyond the big corporate money, there's also a focus on community wellness. The Atlanta Regional Commission has this thing called the Digital Access Pilot Project, or DAPP.
Yeah, DAPP is interesting. It's really an investment in people and equitable access. It's focused on getting evidence-based wellness programs to older adults.
Using digital tools.
Exactly. Things like telehealth, virtual fitness classes, even just social connection platforms. The goal is to improve health outcomes and reduce the isolation that can be so damaging.
So why is digital access the key here for that group?
Because older adults are often the ones left behind as everything moves online, especially healthcare. If your doctor's appointments and prescriptions all move to an app, but you don't have a smartphone or know how to use it, you're cut off from essential care.
Right, so DPP is trying to bridge that gap.
Precisely. It's a necessary piece of the puzzle for overall community health.
And as we're closing out November, the holiday economy is kicking into gear. The sources mentioned that Metro Atlanta is bracing for a really busy shopping season.
And there's a fascinating little side note in there, linking consumer behavior to all the attention around those huge lottery jackpots.
Yeah, the $719 million one. How does that work?
Well, one person winning doesn't change the whole economy, obviously, but the collective excitement, all that media hype about a massive jackpot, it can actually boost general consumer sentiment. It creates this feeling of possibility, and that can translate to more spending across the board. It's a little psychological nudge.
Huh. Interesting. And finally, just a brief but important public safety note from the sources. There was a fatal accident on Covington Highway in DeKalb County on November 24th.
Right. And it's important to note the reports confirm the driver involved stayed at the scene and was fully cooperative with law enforcement. That detail provides critical context for the legal process that follows a tragedy like that.
So this whole first section gives us this picture of a region that's, I don't know, fighting with itself over how to grow, while at the same time attracting huge outside investment.
That's a great summary. A mix of internal conflict and external confidence.
Okay, so let's move from that intense local debate to the much heavier topic of national security, the fallout from the D.C. shooting.
We have the tragic confirmation that a National Guard member, Sarah Beckstrom, died. But it's the information about the suspect that just turns this whole story on its head.
This is where it gets really, really interesting and disturbing. The sources confirmed the suspect had previously served in a CIA counterterrorism unit.
A CIA counterterrorism unit.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't just a random act of violence anymore. This points to a deep systemic failure in how we vet and track people in these highly specialized roles.
The implications are just staggering. This is an individual who is trained at the highest levels with the very skills meant to prevent events like this.
So how does this even happen?
It forces an immediate review of everything. Psychological screening during service, after service. What kind of oversight exists for former operatives who have this knowledge? Who is tracking the people we train to neutralize threats when they themselves become the threat?
It just completely undermines public trust in the intelligence community's ability to manage its own people. A massive blind spot.
And the political response was immediate? The Trump administration paused all asylum decisions right after the shooting?
A classic political move. Connecting a domestic security failure, however tenuous the link, to border policy.
It reflects a very rapid tightening of the security posture across the whole administration.
And separately, we also have to note another big presidential action. The planned pardon for the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez.
Pardons are always political, but a pardon for a foreign head of state, especially one who has faced so much international scrutiny that's going to ignite a huge debate about foreign policy and diplomatic priorities.
Okay, shifting gears to public health. The FDA seems to be signaling a pretty significant change in direction.
A very significant one. It's following an internal assessment where the agency concluded that COVID shots caused the deaths of 10 children.
10 deaths. And that single data point is the catalyst for this whole regulatory shift. The FDA is planning to raise hurdles for future vaccines. What does that actually mean?
In practical terms, it means stricter and probably much longer trial periods, larger groups of people in the trials, and a much higher demand for rigorous safety data before any kind of approval.
So it'll slow things down.
It will definitely slow down the development pipeline for new vaccines. But it's a clear attempt by the agency to rebuild public trust by prioritizing caution over the emergency speed we saw before.
And we have another major safety warning, this one in aviation, that actually sets up our last section of the show.
Yes, the global safety concern raised by Airbus. They've called for an immediate software upgrade on the A320 aircraft.
And that word immediate, you don't use that lightly in aerospace.
You absolutely do not. It implies a critical, acute vulnerability, something that could affect one of the most common passenger jets in the world in a way that is, well, unexpected and potentially catastrophic.
And we're going to get into the really shocking technical reason for that in our final section. It's mind-blowing.
Moving to the truly global scale, we have an update on the tragedy in Hong Kong. The death toll from that high-rise fire has now risen to 128.
Just awful. And dozens are still missing. The scale of that loss is just... it's hard to comprehend. It really underscores the fire safety challenges in these super dense cities.
And diplomatically, we have a note on the Pope's visit to Lebanon. His presence there carries enormous symbolic weight in a region that's basically paralyzed by political and economic collapse.
So does a visit like that actually help?
It creates a very complex mix of emotions. There's hope from people looking for some kind of stability, but also deep frustration from others who feel like outside influence doesn't really solve the deep-seated internal problems.
And finally, a huge domestic disruption here in the States. A major winter storm is just causing chaos for millions of travelers trying to get home after Thanksgiving.
It's a simple, predictable story every year, but it's still a massive disruption. One big storm hits a few major hubs, and you get this cascade of flight cancellations, road closures. It's a reminder that nature can still very easily overwhelm our critical infrastructure.
So this section really shows that failure, whether it's systemic, mechanical, or just natural, has these huge immediate consequences.
And that sense of vulnerability only gets amplified when we shift into the digital world. We are just seeing constant, massive data breaches. The tools the bad guys have are evolving way faster than our defenses.
Let's start with the scale of it. The Japanese beer giant, Asahi. They had a cyber attack back in September that affected up to 1.9 million people.
1.9 million. That just shows you that the operational security at these huge multinational companies is just not keeping up. And now these breaches are leading to real financial penalties.
Case in point, Comcast. They're paying a $1.5 million fine to the FCC. This is for a vendor breach from back in February 2024 that hit almost 275,000 customers.
And this is a key takeaway for anyone listening. The fine is because of a vendor breach. It proves you are legally and financially on the hook for the security failures of your third-party partners.
So your digital supply chain is now a liability chain.
Exactly. If your vendor messes up, you pay the price. It makes vetting those vendors absolutely critical.
And this isn't just an issue for, cable companies. It's hitting the biggest names in tech. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, is telling its API customers that some of their info was exposed.
And how? Through a breach at their third-party analytics vendor, a company called Mixpanel.
So even OpenAI, which has to have some of the best security in the world for its core AI,
is vulnerable through its partners. It's the lowest common denominator problem. Attackers know it's easier to hit the smaller ancillary service provider to get access to the bigger prize.
And it's not just tech and finance getting hit. The French Football Federation, the FFF, also disclosed a breach.
And that one was a classic. The attackers got in using a compromised account to access their administrative software.
So probably just a simple phishing email.
Most likely. A weak password or a successful phish. It's a reminder that all the fancy firewalls in the world don't matter if someone gives away the key. Human error is still the biggest vulnerability.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual mechanisms that are making these attacks possible.
Right. And this first detail is it's alarming because of the sheer scale of it. A security engineer scanned public repositories on GitLab Cloud.
And found what?
More than 17,000 exposed secrets across almost 3,000 unique domains.
Okay, you have to explain what a secret is in this context and why is that so bad?
Secrets are the digital keys to the kingdom. They are things like API keys that let systems talk to each other, or database credentials that give you full access to all the customer data.
So when a developer leaves these in a public code repository,
it is literally like taping the key to the bank vault to the front door for everyone to see.
17,000 keys just sitting out there for the taking. That's not an accident. That's a systemic problem.
It is. There are automated bots that do nothing but scan for these exposed credentials all day long, and they grab them within minutes. It's a complete failure of basic security protocols in the rush to develop and ship code quickly.
Meanwhile, old-school analog crime is getting a digital upgrade. There was a sentencing in Australia for a guy who was running an evil twin Wi-Fi network.
Yeah, he got over 7 years in prison.
This is a technique where you set up a fake Wi-Fi hotspot at a place like an airport. You name it something believable, like free airport Wi-Fi.
And people just connect to it?
They connect. And the attacker is sitting in the middle, capturing all their traffic, logging credentials, credit card numbers, everything. The long sentence shows just how seriously authorities are taking this now.
But the biggest, most landscape-altering threat you've brought today is the rise of these unrestricted large language models. These AIs built specifically for criminals. We're talking about things like Worm GPT-4 and Kawaii GPT. This is the democratization of malice.
So normal AIs like ChatGPT have filters to stop you from asking them how to build a bomb or write a virus.
Correct. Worm GPT and its cousins are built without any of those ethical guardrails. They are specifically designed to generate malicious code on demand. Ransomware encryptors, sophisticated phishing emails, you name it.
So before, you had to be a pretty skilled hacker to launch a serious attack. What does this mean now?
It means the barrier to entry has dropped from expert coder to just person with bad intentions. You can just type in a prompt like, write me a ransomware script, and it will spit out functional code.
So the number of potential attackers just exploded overnight.
Exponentially. We were going to see a massive increase in the volume and variety of attacks because of this. It's like handing out precision weapons to anyone who asks for one.
That's terrifying. Okay, shifting to some other tech insights. OpenAI is apparently testing ads on ChatGPT.
This was always coming. It's the pivot to monetization. The platform has incredible engagement, so they have to figure out how to pay for the massive computing costs.
But ads could really ruin the user experience.
And that's the tightrope they have to walk. How do you make money without alienating the user base that made you valuable in the first place?
And finally, a quick, practical bug report for Windows 11 users.
Yes. Microsoft is warning that some recent updates might make the password sign-in option on the lock screen just disappear.
So you can't log in.
No, it still works. You can still type your password and hit enter. But the box itself is invisible, which is obviously very confusing and frustrating for users. Just a weird little bug from a routine update.
So this whole section really shows this digital paradox we're living in. We have this incredible innovation, but our security is it's completely outmatched.
It's a constant arms race, and right now, the offense has a major advantage.
Okay, this last section is for the aha moments, connecting some of the high-level science and tech trivia to the real world. Let's start by solving the mystery of that immediate Airbus upgrade we mentioned.
Right. So the underlying reason for that urgent A320 software patch. The report suggests it's because of a risk that intense solar radiation cosmic rays basically could corrupt critical flight data.
Wait. The sun? Activity from the sun can physically mess with the computer that's flying the plane. We need to unpack that.
Yes. It's a known phenomenon called a single event upset, or SCU. It happens when a high-energy particle, usually a neutron from a cosmic ray hitting our atmosphere, strikes a microchip.
Like the chips in the plane's flight computers.
Exactly. And when that particle hits a memory cell, it can physically flip the electrical charge. It can change a binary 1 to a 0 or a 0 to a 1.
A bit flip.
A bit flick. And if that flip happens in a critical piece of data like the plane's altitude or its fuel calculation, the computer now has bad data, but it doesn't know it's bad.
And the results could be catastrophic.
Potentially. The corruption is silent and instantaneous, so this immediate software upgrade is all about beefing up the error correction and redundancy systems. It's designed to make sure that if a cosmic ray flips a bit, the system can catch it and correct it before that bad data is used to actually fly the plane.
That is genuinely incredible. A flight safety warning driven by particle physics. Amazing.
Shifting back down to Earth, our sources had a discussion circulating among developers about something we've already touched on.
What's that?
The idea that really proficient engineers at huge companies often produce, surprisingly, pretty poor quality code.
Which goes right back to the 17,000 exposed secrets. Why does that happen if they're so skilled?
It's usually not a lack of skill, it's systemic pressure. In huge corporations, the priority is almost always shipping new features fast. Code cleanliness, long-term maintenance, even security hygiene. They all take a backseat to speed.
So they accumulate technical debt.
A mountain of it. And that's where security flaws and vulnerabilities creep in.
On a more positive note, we saw a great story about a user bypassing geo-blocking.
Yes, someone figured out how to get around Imgur's UK geo-block just by tweaking their network settings, probably using a simple VPN or proxy.
And people loved it. The post got a ton of engagement.
Because it's a small, tangible victory for a free and open internet, it empowers users.
And for Linux users who still need to run Windows apps, there's a tool called WinApps.
A really useful piece of software. It lets you run Windows applications as if they were native to Linux without having to run a whole heavy virtual machine. It gives you a ton of flexibility.
We also saw a really timely project, a show HN entry, that lets you see exactly what data your web browser is broadcasting about you.
That is such an important tool for digital literacy. It's a self-audit. It shows you your digital fingerprint, your unique combination of screen resolution, fonts, browser version, all the things companies use to track you, even if you delete your cookies.
Knowledge is power.
It's the first step to better privacy, for sure.
And finally, a little treat for the vintage tech fans. Someone successfully got the old System 7 operating system to boot natively on a Mac Mini G4.
A true labor of love. That's a real feat of compatibility engineering. Just a cool project celebrating computing history.
All right, let's close out with a quick trip into the world of mathematics,
where abstract concepts can have some really profound implications.
I love this part. Let's start with a cool historical fact. James A. Garfield, the 20th U.S. president, came up with his own proof of the Pythagorean theorem.
He did. And what's so cool about it is how he did it. He constructed a trapezoid out of 3 right triangles.
Okay.
Then he calculated the area of that trapezoid in 2 different ways. Once with the trapezoid formula, and once by adding up the 3 triangles. He set the 2 equations equal to each other, and when you do the algebra, it simplifies perfectly down to a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
That's so elegant.
Yeah.
Just a totally different way of looking at it.
It really is. And that leads to another idea from the sources. The notion that every great mathematician really only relies on a handful of tricks or core techniques.
I find that really reassuring.
Okay.
It makes math seem less infinite.
It demystifies it. It suggests that mastery isn't about knowing everything. It's about deeply understanding a few powerful concepts, like linearity or substitution, and then learning how to apply them everywhere.
And for our final, truly mind-bending concept, a piece exploring a triangle whose interior angles sum to zero. I mean, that breaks the one rule of triangles everyone knows.
It breaks the rule in Euclidean geometry, the flat plane geometry we learn in school. To get a triangle with angles that sum to zero, you have to enter the world of non-Euclidean geometry.
A curved space.
Specifically, a negatively curved space, like the surface of a saddle. A triangle drawn on a surface like that will have angles that add up to less than 180 degrees.
So a zero-sum triangle is just the theoretical extreme of that idea.
Exactly. It's not something you can draw on paper. It's a thought experiment that pushes the boundaries of what's mathematically possible, and those thought experiments are often what lead to breakthroughs in physics.
From cosmic rays flipping bits in a plane to a triangle with no angles, that is a perfect place to end our deep dive.
So if we connect all these different sources and we look for the bigger picture for you to think about, a couple of major tensions really stand out.
What are they?
First, it's that tension between speed and safety. Or you could call it local control versus state efficiency. We saw that perfectly in the fight over Georgia's HB 812, where this push for fast housing development risks just bulldozing over local safeguards.
And the second tension is between this incredible technological wealth and power, that huge Salesforce investment, and this equally massive digital vulnerability.
Right, evidenced by the constant flood of data breaches and the rise of these new AI tools like WormGPT that just hand destructive power to anyone.
So the question we're left with is, when power shifts that quickly, whether it's legislative power or technological power, what's the real cost of all that efficiency? And who's supposed to be building the guardrails?
It's the central question.
And that leads us perfectly to our proverb of the day. Today it's Proverbs 29, verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn.
That's a profound one to apply right now. In a world with AI tools built to cause harm and laws designed to cut corners on safety for speed, what even defines righteous rule anymore?
That's a deep thought.
Is righteous's rule demanding stricter quality and moving slowly? Or is it prioritizing fast access and efficiency, even if it creates new dangers? That's something for you to mull over this weekend.
Absolutely. Okay, for our clip of the day, we have to pick the one detail that was the most shocking and requires the most follow-up.
For me, there's no question. It has to be the revelation that the D.C. shooting suspect had served in a CIA counterterrorism unit.
Agreed. That's the one. It raises fundamental questions about security and oversight that just demand answers.
It's the critical talking point of the week.
It is. Okay, quick final reminder before we sign off. If you got value from this deep dive, please consider supporting the show, value for value. Zap us on a podcasting 2.0 app like Fountain.
And don't forget to check out the Survival Seasoning Batch 2 presale at shop.sbasp.com before that window closes.
Thank you for joining us as we synthesized all your sources.
We'll see you next time.
Adios, folks.